We had no faith that the Canadian government will look after the safety of our diplomats, taken a decision to withdraw our High Commissioner and along with him 5 other diplomats.
That the government of India made a fundamental error. It is absolutely unacceptable for any country, any democracy that upholds the rule of law.
From India withdrawing its diplomats from Canada to US DoJ indictment of CC1, a lot has happened in the past week or so. India-Canada relations have nosedived. But how did it really start? Is it only Canada and its Prime Minister Justin Trudeau deciding to antagonize India for domestic political necessities, or someone else is pulling the strings? Let's analyze in detail. Hello guys, I am Saurav and welcome to The Arc. So how and when did it really start? It all started with Hardeep Singh Nijjar's death. Hardeep Singh Nijjar, a Canadian national, was shot dead on June 18th last year in Surrey in Vancouver, Canada. Nijjar, born in Jalandhar, Punjab, moved to Canada with a forged passport. In 1997, he applied for asylum in Canada, claiming persecution in India, but it was rejected on grounds of a fabricated narrative. He again applied for citizenship with a fake marriage and got rejected again. Finally, in 2007, he was granted Canadian citizenship. Under what grounds is unknown. Nijjar later became the head of Khalistan Tiger Force, a terrorist group operating in Canada. Indian intelligence reports suggest that Nijjar visited Pakistan and met with Jagtar Singh Hawara, a Khalistani terrorist of Babbar Khalsa, who was responsible for the assassination of former Punjab Chief Minister Beyant Singh. Nijjar was trained and assisted by the ISI to organize secret training camps in Canada. In 2014, an Interpol Red Corner notice was issued against Nijjar, despite which the Canadian authorities did not take any action against him, except for putting him on the no-fly list and freezing his bank accounts around 2017. In 2020, Nijjar was designated a terrorist by India's National Investigation Agency, and in 2022, the NIA declared a reward of 10 lakh rupees for information leading to the KTF chief's arrest in the cases registered by the agency. According to the NIA, he had allegedly been raising funds to procure arms and ammunition and train youth for terrorist activities in the country. India over the years continued seeking Nijjar's extradition, and Canada kept protecting him.
Colleagues, following discussions among representatives of all parties in the House, I understand that there is an agreement to observe a moment of silence in memory of Hardeep Singh Nijjar.
To think that the Canadian Parliament observed a moment of silence, paying tribute to a person with such an illustrious criminal history, it's just incredible. In September last year, the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau described in Parliament what he called credible allegations of India's involvement in Nijjar's assassination.
Over the past number of weeks, Canadian security agencies have been actively pursuing credible allegations of a potential link between agents of the government of India and the killing of a Canadian citizen, Hardeep Singh Nijjar.
India rejected the allegations. Then Canada expelled an Indian official, and India, in a tit-for-tat move, expelled a senior Canadian diplomat and also decided to strip 41 Canadian officials working in India of their immunity, after which Canada pulled these diplomats from India. Then on October 14th, India's Ministry of External Affairs received a diplomatic communication from Canada suggesting that the Indian High Commissioner and other diplomats were persons of interest in an investigation, which is the Nijjar case. This meant the Canada government intended to prosecute the Indian diplomatic officials in the case. India then decided to withdraw 6 diplomats, including the High Commissioner Sanjay Kumar Verma.
We had no faith that the Canadian government will look after the safety of our diplomats, and therefore we had taken a decision to withdraw our High Commissioner and along with him 5 other diplomats.
India also expelled 6 Canadian diplomats, and that's where the India-Canada diplomatic relations stand now. India still rejects the allegations and claims that no evidence has been shared by the Canadian side.
We have made our position very clear that serious charges have been leveled against us, but so far, as we said in our press release, few days back, and it was reiterated yet again. So far, Canada has not given any evidence in support of the serious, very serious allegations that they've leveled against India and against Indian diplomats. We also see there is a pattern. The pattern is motivated by political considerations on the part of the Canadian Trudeau government. And there is also, as we have said, there's a clear pattern to smear India for reasons best known to them.
Well, how much do you know? Give us the evidence you have on this. And our response was, well, it's within your security agencies. You should be looking into how much they know. You should be engaging. It's, oh, no, tell us what you know. Show us the evidence. And at that point, it was primarily intelligence, not hard evidentiary proof.
Now the bigger question is, supporters of Khalistan in Canada have been giving incendiary speeches against the Indian state, the Indian Prime Minister and other government officials. These extremists have been harassing and threatening Indian diplomats and community leaders in Canada. A bounty of $500,000 Canadian was put on the head of High Commissioner Sanjay Kumar Burma by these Khalistanis. The BAPS Swaminarayan Mandir in Edmonton, Canada and New York in the US were vandalized by the Khalistanis. And hate-fueled violence directed at Hindu Canadian communities are on the rise.
Yes.
Now the bigger question is, why is the Canada government and Justin Trudeau protecting these Khalistanis, even to the extent of jeopardizing diplomatic relations with a big trade partner like India? Justin Trudeau became the Prime Minister of Canada for the first time in 2015. After the 2019 elections, he was running a minority government. Then in 2 years in 2021, Trudeau decided to go into polls again, right in the middle of the pandemic. He expected a clear mandate in his favor, but his Liberal Party could only secure 160 seats and fell short of 170 seats needed for majority. The Conservative Party won 119 seats, but if you look at the vote percentage difference, it's only 1.1%. And that's where parties like Jagmeet Singh's New Democratic Party and the 2% Sikh population come into picture. Trudeau remained in power with support from Jagmeet Singh's NDP and possibly as a part of the deal pledged support to his Khalistan agenda. Now as the election looms in Canada, Trudeau has decided to double down on the Khalistan bandwagon. Experts suggest Trudeau and his Liberal Party are currently trailing the Conservative Party. Within the Liberal Party, there is serious discontent against Trudeau. At least 20 MPs have signed a document calling for Trudeau to resign. And interestingly, Jagmeet Singh's NDP has also pulled out support to the government.
Today, I notified the Prime Minister that I've ripped up the Supply and Confidence Agreement. Canadians are fighting a battle for the future of the middle class. Justin Trudeau has proven again and again he will always cave to corporate greed. The Liberals have let people down. They don't deserve another chance.
Apart from vote bank politics, there is also another reason behind Trudeau's sudden anti-India rhetoric. Canada's intelligence agency CSIS, in its report this year, established that China interfered in the country's past two general elections, held in 2019 and 2021. China supposedly supported Trudeau's party in the elections. Then why did Trudeau decide to go public vis-a-vis India, but yet to condemn China? Now the bigger question is Canada acting alone, or there is someone else pulling the strings? If you remember, India has a similar dispute going on with the US on the issue of a plot to assassinate Khalistani terrorist Gurpatwant Singh Pannun. Pannun is a dual US-Canada citizen and is a designated terrorist in India. He founded and heads the Sikh for Justice group. Pannun is frequently seen spewing hate against India and posting videos on social media, threatening Indian leaders, diplomats, and even threatening to blow up Air India planes.
We are asking the Sikh Panth, do not fly Air India. 19 ਨਵੰਬਰ ਤੋਂ ਗਲੋਬਲ ਬਲੌਕੇਡ ਤੇ 에ਅਰ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਚੱਲਣ ਨਹੀਂ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਜਾਏਗੀ.
India designated Pannun a terrorist in 2020 and he is wanted in more than 24 cases. Indian authorities also suspect Pannun's role in disturbances in Delhi during the farmers' protest in India. So how did this case of failed assassination of Pannun come to light? In June last year, an Indian national named Nikhil Gupta was arrested in Czech Republic by Czech authorities at the request of the US and was later extradited to the US. In the US Justice Department indictment, it was mentioned that Nikhil Gupta was hired by CC1, an Indian intelligence officer residing in India who directed the plot to assassinate Pannun in the US. The US DoJ released a press release on 17th October in which they have named Vikash Yadav as CC1. As per the release, Vikash Yadav is an agent of India's Foreign Intelligence Agency R&AW, and before that he was employed in the CRPF. The US indictment also mentions that Yadav had shared details about Nijjar's assassination with Nikhil Gupta, indicating that he might also be involved in that. India responded by saying that it was investigating the allegations, and Yadav was no longer a government employee. It's a big diplomatic soup. Was Vikash Yadav really the raw agent behind all this? If yes, then 1. It's a huge embarrassment for India diplomatically. And 2. It raises big questions with respect to competence and professionalism of Indian intelligence apparatus carrying out such covert operations on foreign soil. Because the first rule of spycraft is never get caught. There is also a possibility that Vikash Yadav, a former government employee, went rogue and was operating alone. On 23rd June 1985, an Air India Flight 182 Kanishka, travelling from Canada to India via London, exploded off the Irish coast. All 329 people on board lost their lives. The victims included 268 Canadian citizens and 24 Indians. The bombing was carried out by terrorists linked to Khalistanis. And do you know what a fine investigation RCMP carried out? Only one person has been convicted till date for one of the deadliest aviation terror attacks in history, and even he was released prematurely in 2017. Reports also suggest that CSIS might have a mole among the Khalistanis and could have prevented the Kanishka bombing. Instead, the CSIS pulled out the mole just ahead of the bombing so that the mole would not be implicated. That's how serious they are on the Khalistan issue. Hence the question that needs to be asked: why are the US and Canada so soft on these Khalistani separatists who have been advocating secessionism, targeting Indian individuals and institutions, Hindu temples in the US, UK, Canada, Australia and elsewhere? They are also actively involved in conducting crimes in India. 61 extradition requests from India are pending with the US in last 2 decades. Just because they are American and Canadian citizens, they get a free pass to conduct extremist activities against India, or are they US and Canada assets working for the US and Canadian authorities against India? Remember David Coleman Headley? David Headley, an American citizen, was one of the prime suspects in the terror attack. He worked as an undercover operative for the US Drug Enforcement Agency. Headley did reconnaissance for the Lashkar-e-Taiba and provided material support to the attackers. When he was arrested in the US, he pleaded guilty to the charges and took a plea deal with a precondition that he would not be extradited to India. He is currently serving a 35-year sentence in the US. So for a crime that resulted in 175 people losing lives and hundreds of injured, he would never face the consequences in the Indian court of law. Why? Because he is an American citizen? Or maybe because he was a double agent of the CIA and LET, and extraditing him to India would have revealed all the dirty secrets. So the Western countries, particularly the US, conducting all sorts of covert operations all across the world is right. But India conducting the same is wrong. Why? Why this double standards and hypocrisy? Tension between India and Canada is not going to die down anytime soon. But India, being the victim of Khalistani terror, should not take these extremists lightly. India's sovereignty and territorial integrity cannot be compromised at any cost. That's the red line no one should cross. The earlier the Western countries understand that, the better. I hope you liked the video. Please support the channel for more such interesting videos.